Yet, statistics show that I think it's over 50% of Americans still do not believe in evolution. And most of the ones who do believe in evolution believe God used evolution. So when it comes down to people who say, yeah, I don't believe that God exists, I'm an atheistic evolutionist, you're only talking between 4 to 6% of Americans today. What happened was, though, the fastest growing group is a group that classifies themselves as non-religious. And so the atheists assumed that this fast-growing group were atheists. Well, now a lot of the research has been more specific, especially coming out of Baylor University. And in their research, they're asking specific questions about why you classify yourself as non-religious and things of that sort. And what they're finding out is a big chunk of the non-religious actually hold to Christian beliefs. It's just that, I mean, when they were in college or in their adult life, they got out of the habit of going to church, so they classify themselves as non-religious because they're not affiliated to any church, or they're disenchanted with the evangelical church, so they still profess faith in Christ. And I'm not excusing them for not going to church, but basically what I'm saying is a chunk of this group really hold to Christian beliefs. Probably the biggest percentage of the group of non-religious are basically what I would call neo-pagan or New Age. So they believe in some type of God, but they think they're Him. You know, they believe God is the universe, or at least the universe is God's body, something along those lines. So in other words, what they're finding is that non-religious group, only a tiny fraction of them are either atheist or hard agnostic. So hard agnostic believes God probably doesn't exist. The evidence is weighed against him. He probably doesn't exist. A soft agnostic would say, well, I don't believe God exists. I haven't seen the evidence, but there might be good evidence that He exists. And so, so if you're ever dialoguing with a soft agnostic, they're usually open to dialogue, and they're willing to look at least they claim to be willing to look at evidence. So whatever the case, you think of the new atheist, think of highly emotional, impatient people who have an agenda. They're acting like, look, we know these Christians are Neanderthals. We can't progress. As we're evolving as humans, we can't progress with these Neanderthals around. We need to do something about it. Let's stop pretending that it's okay to be a Christian. We know how harmful it is. By the way, these guys will point to September 11th, to 9/11, 2001, and they'll use that as evidence against Christianity. So they very conveniently group together any religion that believes in a personal God. So anytime Muslims blow up a building or kill people, that's another point against Christianity as far as they're concerned. Okay? And last time I looked, there's a big difference between Islam and Christianity, and both religious groups ought to be viewed separately. To just group them together like that is very convenient for the new atheists. So what we're going to look at is the case, and you got to really go out of the way and read between the lines to find what kind of a case they're using. So I try to identify some of their key assertions, claims, call them arguments would be a little bit of an exaggeration, and then I'll try to give a Christian response of each of those. So the first one I want to look at is religious faith is blind. Only science is rational, okay? And then they also teach that faith and reason do not overlap. And let's take that second one first, and then we'll try to tie them both in together. So these guys are saying, okay, you got faith and you got reason, and they don't overlap at all, okay? Now, in the history of philosophy, very few philosophers have held to that view. And in fact, I would think if we had 100 of the world's leading philosophers in this room, I would think for the vast majority of them would say that's a very weak philosophy. It's just too simplistic. To say if something's of faith, it's not of reason at all, and if something's of reason, thinking, and it's not of faith at all. So most philosophers would have something like this for faith and reason, okay? Where there is overlap. Everybody in this room is exercising a tremendous amount of faith right now. Okay? Your, what's a good term for it? Hindquarters are suspended a couple feet off the ground. Now, if you drop onto a hard surface and do damage to your tailbone, I mean, you could, be paralyzed. And I don't see anybody trembling out there. So you're exercising tremendous faith in man's technology when it comes to building chairs. Okay? That is faith. I didn't see any of you inspecting the chairs and having what is it, OSHA experts to check it out, stuff like that. And so you have tremendous faith in man's technology to build chairs. Is that blind faith? An irrational faith? No. We have good reasons. Man's been building chairs for a long time. There's lots of good reasons for believing that that man can build chairs that can actually support the weight of a human being. How many people flew out here? Okay. So you got faith in man's ability to build airplanes. You've got faith in the pilot. I never met these pilots before they're flying, but I just assume, Alaska Airlines, they're not going to hire some idiot, and so this guy knows what he's doing. And when you drive over a bridge, we got two Tacoma and Narrows bridges now back in Washington. And suspended hundreds of feet over water, cement slabs. And so, now let me say this though, I probably have less faith in man's technology to build bridges than most people. Because I watched the old film of the first Tacoma Narrows Bridge, the failed experiment. I see that one car going off the bridge and it's like, so, when they built the second bridge, I made sure that people were driving over that thing back and forth for like a week, and then I gave it a test run. And, but whatever the case, just because you have faith in something, you trust something, doesn't mean you don't have good reasons for that trust. In fact, this is so bad that when Richard Dawkins was debating John Lennox, another Oxford scholar, Dawkins said, faith and reason can never mix. If something's of faith, it by definition can't be of reason. If something is of reason, it can't be of faith. And then Lennox looked at him and said, oh, come on now, Richard. You must have good reasons for having faith in your wife. And Richard Dawkins said, of course. And then the whole audience laughed because they got it and he didn't. And then his face turned real red. So Richard Dawkins has good reasons for having faith that his wife will be loyal to him, okay? Yet he just got done saying, if you have faith, automatically reason cannot be involved at all. And so these guys do not argue, this is very important, these guys are not arguing that religious faith, especially Christian faith, they're not arguing that it cannot be reasonable. They're assuming at the outset that it is not reasonable. Okay? This is not something they argue for. They just assume it. They've got this warped view of religious faith that automatically it's faith that goes against all the evidence. Okay? So for all practical purposes, if anybody who believes in God is some kind of superstitious type person who just believes things against all the evidence. And so they would say, when it comes to science, where are they going to put science?